What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about The Last of Us Part 2 sales and talk about whether they're good or bad. I've seen, quite the divide, I think, on Twitter, and I wanted to kind of weigh in. So we heard yesterday after the show, I think it may have been in the PlayStation blog is where they formally announced it, The Last of Us Part 2 as of this past spring, okay? So it's not fully, it's not like to the day, but it's very close, has sold 10 million units, all right? Now that's, 2 years. We're about to celebrate the 2-year anniversary of The Last of Us Part 2, so it's 2 years after the game has come out. Now, one thing I immediately want to stop people from saying is, because, look, I am up for debate of whether 10 million is good based off of how fast it started to sell, or you could compare it to other PlayStation games or Nintendo games. You could do whatever you want. But one thing I really do want to kind of put to bed immediately and just kind of say my opinion of is I don't understand when people say, well, it's not even people buying it at full price. Like, every game has these things. So if you want to do that, you have to do it to every game, right? People are even complaining, like Horizon Forbidden West sees an uptick in sales every time there's an uptick in PS5 sold. And that's mainly, not fully, but mainly because, some of them have bundles. So when you're buying a PS5, you're getting Horizon, and that counts as a sale. So people are, they can, but you know what? I mean, Halo does that. Actually, it's stupid to say it for one Sony game. Like or hate The Last of Us Part 2, all right? You can't hold that over the game, in my opinion. That's so dumb. Again, many games go on sale. The amount of, if you want to do sales at full price, you're going to have every single game, except for Nintendo games, come down. Nintendo is just kind of a beast on its own. They manage to do things Xbox and PlayStation can only dream of, all right? And that's a blatant truth as well. All right, so putting that to bed, the sales, is it $60 versus, well, maybe somebody bought it at $40. You can't count that as a sale. Oh, maybe it was a bundle. You can't count that. Putting aside that garbage, is 10 million actually a good number? I'm willing to say yes. But if you look at it, I guess, from a certain perspective, it gets a little bit weaker. And so, hear me out, or let's kind of go through it. So the biggest thing I think that hurts that it's 10 million, if you want to take that approach, all right? I think overall it's good. But if you want to take the negative approach, it sold, I believe, 4 million units in the first 3 days. I think it broke records. It was like an insane thing, and that's probably what like the online community kind of latched itself onto immediately, right? Like, oh my God, it sold almost, it sold 4 million. I mean, that is incredible to do that in such a short period of time, right? Now, the downside of that is, well, when you sell 3-4 million whatever in the first, let's even say, week, and then you sell 6 million in the next 1 year and 51 weeks. Obviously, you did a lot of it at the beginning. So to me, it maybe even is the example of like a big blockbuster, and you could maybe look at this as a negative, right? I'm keeping this pretty ambiguous. You could look at it as like a big blockbuster movie, right? A movie that does insanely well week 1, but then has a really big drop after that. I guess I would say the game probably is a little bit better than that, because like for a movie, a movie may make 300, 400, maybe it's pretty similar. If a movie makes almost half of its total sales in the first week, and then it makes everything else, the other half, other 60% in the weeks following, that's pretty similar, I would say, to what this game did, right? I mean, factually, 4 million, and then so that's 40%, and then it sold 60% of it after, let's just say, the first week, just to kind of make it easy, right? So that, I mean, you can look at that, I guess, as a negative in terms of it started really fast and then it tailed off. But with that being said, and here's, again, the caveat. With that being said, that is the case with a lot of games. In fact, really, if you think about it, any Sony game that's been, like, the biggest Sony games, God of War. God of War did incredible. Spider-Man did not, well, Spider-Man's probably not a great example because Spider-Man sold well to start, and then it never stopped, right? So that's a little unfair. Spider-Man truly is, like a Nintendo's kind of in a class of its own with some of its games, like a Mario Kart, right? I would say, honestly, Spider-Man is in the class of its own with Sony games because it's just, you can't really compare things. But like God of War, I think, is a good example, or Uncharted. Uncharted is a great example, right? These are games that sold, or Ghost of Tsushima even, these are games that sold very, very well quickly, and then kind of slow down. Oh, now actually, Ghost of Tsushima did pretty well over time. I guess that's the thing too, is people are comparing it to Ghost. Ghost came out a month later, and it maybe is pretty equal with it in terms of sales. That's, I guess, again, if you want to take that angle, that may be a negative when you look at it like that. And you say, okay, well, Ghost came out. Ghost, I think it sold like 8 million after maybe at the beginning of this year or sometime rather recently, right? So it's like it's pretty close, Ghost and Last of Us. And Last of Us is an established brand, right? You want The Last of Us 2 to crush it. If you're Naughty Dog, if you're Sony. And I think it did. Again, I mean, if it did sell for full price, $60 full price, that's $600 million. Now, they did not get all of that, right? That's just not how it worked. But, I mean, the game made, I don't know, I mean, anywhere between $250 to $500 million, let's say. I mean, it made an incredible amount of money. It also cost them an incredible amount of money. But, you know, you look at like The Last of Us, the sales figures of the first game, and the sales figures of the first game is $20 million between the original on PS3 and the remastered game on PS4, 20 million combined. Now, it's been 9 years since so 20 million in 9 years with those two games combined, and, well, 9 years for one half of the two. And then for this game, you got 10 million in 2 years. So the thing is, though, I don't know if this would ever reach 20 million. If The Last of Us Part 2 would ever reach 20 million, I think it would maybe, probably slow down, but maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it would end up getting 12, 13, 14, 15 million, units. This puts it up there with the Uncharted's, with the Horizons, the first game, with God of War, with Spider-Man. Some of them are bigger, but it puts them in the category of one of the biggest PlayStation exclusives of all time. So is there angles to look at it as a negative? Like maybe the franchise is slowing down, or maybe it just didn't do as good as they thought, or it started really big, kind of unusually big, like in a good way, like a big box office hit, and then it kind of teetered out. Can you look at it like that? Sure. I actually don't think there's really anything wrong with that. But ultimately, can you call this a success, the sales? I really think you can. I do. And by the way, that is putting aside all love or all hate you may have for this game. And I've said it before, I really don't like what they did with the story or the characters. I really love pretty much everything else, all right? So, but to be honest with you, I'm putting that completely aside. I really don't think that matters when I'm just talking about sales figures. Again, you can look at it as maybe people didn't like it and it was word of mouth the first week and then it kind of dropped, whatever. But just looking at it from sales and historically how Sony has done with these games, I do think it's fine. It did really good. It really did. So we'll see what 3 and the multiplayer and Last of Us Remake, we'll see what those things can do. But I would overall say this was a success. Maybe you want it to be more because it started so quick, started so hot, but it seems to line up pretty well with a lot of the other PlayStation exclusives that have hit those numbers over recent, like the last 5 to 10 years. This is kind of exactly the same as a lot of them, to be honest. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on so you know when all these videos go up, and I hope to see you all on tomorrow's video.